I welcome all of you as we gather once again to recognize three outstanding graduates of this College of Law. On behalf of the Board of Visitors, I welcome you. And as you all know, in past years at this event, President David Boren has always been the opening speaker, giving the welcome. And he cannot be here tonight. But I want to pause for just one moment and ask all of us to think together about President Boren. And I know that I speak for everyone in this room in saying that we thank and commend President David Boren for his historic and courageous leadership of this university. Now, I stand as a very, very inadequate substitute for David Boren, and I have only one point to make, and that is that the OU College of Law is excelling in every way. And I know, speaking to a room full of lawyers and judges, that I'm going to have to present at least a little bit of evidence that perhaps meets at least the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt to support my point. And so here's the evidence. Nationwide, law school applications are down by 50% over the past 4 years. OU Law is flourishing in that environment. It is among only 10% of the law schools in the nation that has improved its academic profile during this difficult time. OU Law ranks in the top 15% of all law schools for employment of its graduates. The faculty is growing, and with the addition of 3 new faculty this year. OU bar exam passage is at 91%, compared to an overall rate of 84%. Student satisfaction is at 98%. Many law schools don't even ask the students for this opinion. The total endowment in just the recent years has doubled. Scholarships have increased by 50%. Over $1 million has been distributed to students in just this past year. And the story goes on, but I rest my case with this statement. And it is a simple, clear statement, and that is that OU Law is now known as one of the very best public law schools in the nation. Now, why is this important? Well, we all know why it's important. Because the law school has the obligation to educate those who will guard the rule of law into the future. The practice of law is a calling that is greater than self. Many of you heard me say before, and I mentioned it on the video, and that is that lawyers have shaped this nation. Every great document in our history, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Emancipation Proclamation, every step, every dream of justice, lawyers were there. Every advance in social justice, lawyers were there. Every advance in civil rights, lawyers were there. Every time something good happens, lawyers are dreaming and working to make it better. And that is why this is all important tonight, that we celebrate the success of our law school. Now I turn to the introduction of the man who has been the leader of all this effort to produce all this good news. The credit goes to many, but ultimately it goes to the leader. Because guess what? If things weren't going good, you know who we'd be looking at. Dean Joe Harris has dedicated his life and every waking minute to OU Law. All of our success has been the result of bringing us together, students, faculty, and alumni, bringing us together. It reminds me of the African proverb. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Dean Harris has brought us together in this mission, and it's my honor to present our Dean, Joe Harris.
Thank you very much. I'm going to leave now. This has gone way too well so far. There's no reason to argue past this. Thank you all for being here. It is, and thank you to Justice Taylor, the very first time that I presented in Oklahoma City in this role, and following Andy Coates on anything is a bad idea. But I went in there and asked Judge Taylor, Justice Taylor, and Justice Thompson to present me. And every step of the way, Justice Taylor has been there. You saw him at the convocation for the first day of our students. In every instance, teaching class, helping out in every way, he's always there. So thank you, Justice Taylor, for being an example to all of us and for being such a good friend to us. Thank you very much. All right, in case you didn't know, tonight we honor three among us. We honor Dean Andy Coates, we honor Reggie Whitten, and we honor the Honorable Robin Cawthron, Hank Meyer notwithstanding. It is great to be here with you, and we're going to, we have many people to introduce, and among those witticisms that Andy always brings us, which are half joke and half direct instruction, one of those is that for a night to be memorable, it need not be eternal. And so, with that in mind, I will go through our introductions and I will categorize them in groups, although I will not make the mistake I made in the first one of these, which was simply saying, would all the judges please stand up? Right, I know, that was a hideous idea. All right, and so if we could, I'd like to introduce the former regents as a group, and by the way, while doing this, I will ask you to hold your applause at certain times. It's a difficult thing to follow, but please do. And also, please do eat your salad during this so we can keep the program and the dinner moving forward. The first former regents, we have three former regents that are here. Regent Melvin Hall, Regent Dan Little, and Regent Richard Bell. Please welcome them. The Chancellor of the State Regents for Higher Education, Chancellor Glenn Johnson. The prior order of the OWL recipients are listed in the program, and our own Bill Ross labeled the group, and he explained to us that a group of owls is in fact a parliament of owls. So the parliament is in your program, but I would like to introduce those past recipients that are here tonight as a group. I will introduce all of them, and please, we'll then recognize them. From the class of 2011, Bill Paul and Bill Ross. From the class of 2000, I know, it's a hard instruction. From the class of 2012, Judge Tom Brett. And from the class of 2013, Mike Burridge and Kathy Taylor and Judge Ralph Thompson. Let's please recognize all of those individuals. Thank you. The College of Law Board of Visitors is a group of esteemed friends and colleagues that are former OU Law grads, and they give great guidance and counsel all along the way. And so I would ask that first the chair, Bill Ross, please stand. DeVere could not be here tonight, but Bill Ross has been in 19 years of service and has told me he will not serve another day. But Bill Ross has been there all of the way, and I would ask for all the members of the Board of Visitors to please stand up and be recognized. We also created a Young Alumni Board just about a year ago, and there are members of the Young Alumni Board that are here that also provide advice and counsel and help connect us. Would all of those members please stand and be recognized? They're working on standing and being recognized. It's a learning process. We are fortunate to have a number of justices and judges that are with us tonight. I would like to, if I could, announce those in two broad categories, announce them as from the federal bench and then from the state bench, and begin with federal judges and federal appointees. So I will now list those, and please stand and remain standing until all of the federal judges and federal appointees are called. Judge Robin Cothran, Judge Tim DeGiusti, Judge Terry Kern, Judge Tim Leonard, Judge Stephen Friett, Judge Joe Heaton, Judge Jim Payne, Judge David Russell, Judge Frank C., Judge Ralph Thompson, Judge Lee West, he's impossible to miss, United States Magistrate Judge Sean Irwin, Judge Charles Goodwin, Judge Bana Roberts, and two federal appointees, United States Attorney Sandy Coates and United States Marshal Charles Weeks. Thank you all very much. And yes, I realize how presumptuous it is of me to ask people to stand and judges to be seated. I understand it. And now, introduction of the state judiciary in attendance. Again, please hold your applause until the end. From the Oklahoma Supreme Court, Justice Tom Colbert, Justice Noma Gurich, Justice Stephen Taylor. From the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, Judge Charles Johnson. From the state judiciary, Judge John Blake, Judge Lisa Davis, Judge Brian Dixon, Judge Bob Lake Grove, Judge Tim Henderson, Judge Gordon Melson, Judge Martha Oakes, Judge Richard Ogden, Judge Patty Parrish, Judge Michael Tupper, and Judge Jeff Virgin. Thank you. We have two tribal judges in attendance that are also professors at the College of Law, Professors Lindsay Robertson and Professor Kathleen Guzman. Thank you all. We have two members of the Oklahoma State Legislature in attendance, Representative Chris Canaday. And Representative John Paul Jordan. Thank you very much. We have three current and former college deans in the room. Dean Daniel Pullen from the College of Business. And then we have former deans, as you might have guessed, Andy Coates and David Swank. The Oklahoma Bar Association president for this year, OBA President David Porch. And then all of the members of the Annual Giving Society that have done so much. They're listed in your program, but at this time I would ask the members of the Dean's Leadership Circle and the Second Century Society to please stand and be recognized. And then members of my day-to-day family, the faculty, staff, and students of the College of Law, please stand. All right. Would also like to say, as we conclude the introductions, three more. One of those is to Dean Casey Delaney, who has spearheaded this entire effort to bring together the largest of these dinners with over 500 attendees. Thank you, Dean Delaney. I'd like to also thank my mom and dad who are here, who come to so many events. You should at least be recognized, so thank you. A parent's burden never ends. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Samia. Samia not only is my wife and my partner, but also all the beauty you see in this room, not the physical beauty that you're responsible for, but the beauty on the tables and the arrangements and the decorations and the meal are all a product of her work, which she fit in between her own job and our three children. So thank you, Samia. And the final recognition is for the Order of the Coif. For those that have not been to law school, that are here, the Order of the Coif is an honorary scholastic society, the purpose of which is to encourage excellence in legal education, and also to bring in those members who have attained high distinction for their scholarly or professional accomplishments. Tonight is the night that we honor those that finished in the top 10% of the graduating class of 2014. They are in your program, but would all of those that are being inducted into that society please stand and be recognized? And we'd also like to recognize the individual voted in this year because of his accomplishments and distinction. We are very proud of him, Judge Charles Johnson. Judge Johnson. He was so much fun to call and tell that. All right, you've already heard from Justice Taylor, but what I do want to do right before we begin the entree portion of the evening is just to pause for a minute since we are all together and talk about the purpose. And you've heard it from Justice Taylor more eloquently than I can certainly say it. But it is a moment just to get together. It is the one time every year all of us get together as a community of OU Law alums and friends to get together, to spend one evening, and to not ask you for a penny. The great Dave Maloney, who's a dear friend who's passed away, was the individual who first suggested this. It has rapidly become with the exception of graduation, my absolute favorite time of the year. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And in thinking about the comments pre-dinner, in addition to the admonition to be brief, I would add this, and that is, when I first came in, one of the first things that these deans, that Dean Andy Coates and David Porch and Stan Evans all talked about was generations of excellence. And I'm sure you've seen that in some of the literature you've received. This idea that at OU Law, it is about generations of excellence. And I thought that that's really what we're doing here, is we're celebrating that. We're celebrating the fact that for now, 106 years, this law school has served its mission and what it does. And then I thought about what we're supposed to do during our time that we have to help serve the college, and how we do that, and how we preserve and continue and hope to build upon what was provided before on this foundation. How do we react? How do we serve the role of being the state's only public university, our state's only public law school? What is that role, and how do we do it, and how do we honor you in generations of excellence? And as Justice Taylor told you, these are fascinating times. It's a kind way of characterizing it. There's been nationwide this decrease of applicants to law school by almost 50% over the last 4.5 years. Andy Coates has unbelievable timing. That's when he got out. Although Andy does believe that decrease nationwide was because he left. But that's right. When you look at it, it is a time of dramatic change, and we're fortunate to be in a position where in the face of this, we are flourishing and doing well, and that is a testament to every single person in this room. And so I thought what I'd do for these brief comments is talk about what are 4 examples of those challenges that are directly presenting us, and what is our reaction to that, and our response to that. And these are just 4 examples. They certainly aren't a comprehensive listing, but hopefully they can illustrate both what we're finding in this environment and how we're addressing it. Because just a couple weeks ago, I was at this national conference and gathering of law deans. Imagine the misery index there. And while there, I realized that many are really suffering, and many, I believe, won't make it. And so what are those challenges that we're seeing, and how are we adapting and organizing ourselves in it? Because it directly impacts how we continue these generations of excellence this law school has produced for so many years. The first one is that it has become a question of value for students nationwide. What drove this change is that the price for many law schools became too high to bear, and there are consequences when people can't afford to go to law school. It affects this country, not just those who attend law school. And it is that which has driven this primarily. And so we realize it's a matter of making sure we're the highest quality at the lowest possible cost. And you have to have both of those. You can't just pick one of those. And so we have actively recruited and done our best and worked at this. And people in this room, led by Dean Paulk and others that are here, have led that charge, and we're so proud of the work they've done to make sure we're bringing those most qualified in this state into our law school and beyond our borders as well. But you must keep costs low, and we have for the last 2 years not increased tuition by a penny, and we will not increase tuition this next year. This idea that we must keep the cost low to attend, to keep it available. Also, the part that you've been doing is phenomenal. Our alumni have answered this call by the scholarship increases that you have heard about, and it is those scholarships that allow us to make law school not just affordable, but also excellence. And so that part is all about you. And thank you all so very much for what you've done. We're also trying to help our students in other ways. An example is to try and save time in their legal education when we can. We've created an early entry program where students in their 3rd year of college at OU or OSU can come straight to law school and make their first year of law school their last year of college, to save them 1 year that way. We're also looking at other opportunities. I already introduced Dean Pullen, but we're about to launch a 3-year joint JD MBA, which is rigorous, difficult to accomplish, but could let a student move forward and save 1 year in their educational experience. And as part of that, this idea of value, I'm reminded almost sort of in a Carvelian way of this idea of it's the jobs, stupid, right? It's the jobs that matter to our students. And while many schools have cut back the number of individuals helping our students find opportunities that can be great careers, not just jobs, we've actually added in this area. And I'm so proud of this statistic that we're in the top 15% in the country of all law schools in terms of those categories that matter the most, long-term jobs where a JD is required or a JD is advantage. The second one is that's exciting. The second is to make sure that the 2nd and 3rd year of law school are meaningful. This idea the first year they work, they scare you to death, 2nd year they work you to death, 3rd year they bore you to death, does not work in this market anymore. It simply doesn't. When people ask, should law school just be 2 years? Right, the answer is law schools have to continue to add and build and evolve. And here are a few examples of what we've done. We've tried to add a whole range of opportunities for our students. Take advantage of the fact that we're here with a comprehensive university. Offer more joint degrees, JD MBA, Masters of Public Health Administration. Across the board joint degrees to give our students more expertise and specialization in an increasingly specialized world. We've added a Master of Laws program, the John B. Turner LLM program. We're adding new certificates, and in fact, we're adding a brand new certificate this next year in advocacy. We already had one in business entrepreneurship, one in oil and gas and native peoples. And we very thoughtfully, the faculty, very thoughtfully walked through what should a certificate in litigation look like, and it shouldn't just be a collection of classes you can take, but an orderly progression of classes that helps train our students in the best possible way to do 2 things: to understand what it means to be a litigator, so as they make that first career choice, they can go into it well informed, and also to better prepare them. And so it's an exciting time. Leverage the opportunities and also to look at experiences that can help our students to have more practical training in addition to a great basic legal education. We're looking at clinics, a new breed of classes, an entirely new breed of classes that include simulations and not just clinics, that give students not just one slice of the law, but a comprehensive view of the law. Our how-to classes, how to drill a well, takes a student from the idea of identifying property to drill on all the way through production. So they see each step of that process. Same thing in the area of business associations, the idea of how does a merger actually happen, and see a merger from beginning to end. And then look at competitions. The competitions are also a great training ground. A number of our students here are doing those. The competition successes, because of Connie Smotherman, have been and all the professors that are here, has been outstanding. We jumped last year to 19th in the country in our competition teams. This year came in at 11th in the country through the Blakely Institute, and this year right now are having the best year we've ever had. And so we're hoping that'll go up as well. But those are practical ways to advance the legal education of our students. The third thing is there is a revolution in technology going on. There's a revolution in the digital age, and many places are simply ignoring it. The reality is we all know that you cannot do legal research today without doing it in a digital format. The publishers are making it impossible, and the employers demand that students know how to operate in a digital world. Not only do you have to do this, but the advantages to our students are innumerable. And what we learned this through the Inasmuch Foundation, the gift they gave 5 years ago, where they gave us the Inasmuch Foundation rooms that are totally wired rooms. We learned that technology can be a vehicle not to distance people and to isolate them, but to actually bring our students together in greater collaboration. So this last year, this academic year, we launched the first of its kind in the country, Digital Initiative, where every student at no cost to them, every student at the law school received an iPad. And not just an iPad as some novelty, but because of Dean Fox's work, and he spent all summer doing this, he put together a plan for us to teach our students from day one, we call them digital legal natives, to learn how to operate in that sphere, and it is having a huge impact on them and their abilities to compete. Finally, and the last key to this, has been an understanding of what we do best, and that is to focus intensely on the student experience. Gone are the days whenever you'd weed out half of your class or 2/3 of your class. This idea is create an exceptional experience that teaches them not just to be amazing at understanding how to research and write and understand the law, but also teach them about our profession and the values that we have as a profession. And we gear that across the board, from small sections where students can't hide and professors can't either, where you have to interact together, to simulations we talked about, record number of externships and internships, and an understanding of the human condition. The International Human Rights Clinic that we have, record number of volunteer hours, focusing on that. The Pros for Africa, Sister Rosemary is here and has been a great partner in that along with the Wittens. The lunch and learns that we have. But at the end of the day, those are 4 good examples, but at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, it's all about the people. And when you look at them, they're inspiring. Our students are here at the tables. They're absolutely, don't tell them this, but they're amazing. And so energetic, and you wouldn't believe the hours they put into their training and education. But let me give you a few examples. Just this week, I met with Professor Aswad at the law school. She came from the U.S. State Department as a new professor, and we had a meeting today. We had a meeting on Wednesday, where it was in the Bell Courtroom, and it was students from the College of International Studies, our law students, and the U.S. State Department. And this class was built where the U.S. State Department sends problems they have and need answers to our top students, and our students work on that during the semester and provide real live solutions to the U.S. State Department. It's our College of International Studies, it's our College of Law, it is moving forward in a collaborative way, and the U.S. State Department has asked us to be the secretariat or the lead for the entire country in bringing universities together to help our State Department and put to use our best and brightest minds in that regard. New classes that are out there, if you look at Professor Owen Anderson, Professor Dean Brian McCall, we have new kinds of teaching. Evidence has always been taught traditionally. Professor Backus has brought us an evidence lab. The same thing in criminal procedure, Professor Henderson. And one of my favorite examples from this week was our NALSA team, our Native American Law Students competition team, went to Tucson for a competition. It was in the bad weather of last week, and Professor Taiwagi Helton was taking them. They missed their flight out of Oklahoma City. They took a car and drove it down to Dallas. That flight was canceled, so he drove them all the way out to Tucson for the competition. They made the competition. The problem with that is you got to drive back. Right? So they made the competition. They were incredibly successful there. And they got back in the car, drove back. They arrived back here Monday morning at 3 a.m., and he was back in the classroom teaching a 10 a.m. class as if he hadn't even broken a sweat. And that's an example of the kind of professors and the kind of activity we have. And I would then ask all the professors that are here to please stand up, because it has taken me a while to realize this, but you wouldn't believe the immersive experience they are giving to our students, how many hundreds of hours they work and thousands of hours they work purely dedicated to our students. And that is the secret to our success, is the idea that they aren't just coming in, teaching one class and leaving, but they are there, involved and engaged with our students, involved with their lives, and helping them in all aspects. And that is the secret to the success of what is going on here. I would also add that there are retirees that are here that we let retire and then bring back at almost no compensation. It's a great plan. Here tonight, Professor Swank, or Dean Swank, Ted Roberts, Bob Spector, I'm not sure who else is here. Drew Kirshen, I'm sure, is here as well. But they are here at the law school for absolutely no compensation. Mark Gillette, of course. It's a little self-aggrandizing, but okay. You call that work? All right. They come back and they do amazing things. And so they're examples of what takes place. And so I would make one more comment about an individual before we do launch into our meal, and that is someone I'd like to stand up and be recognized. And let me first tell the story. A few weeks ago, or I guess a few months ago now, I was in my office, and I was told that I needed to meet with this individual. And the individual came in and said, I'm going to retire, but I have 2 requirements. And that makes you focus. So I did. Not sure what's coming next. And she said to me, the first is that I'm giving a gift in my estate of $500,000, but I want $400,000 of that to go to reaching out, to making it a more diverse student body for diversity initiatives, and I want $100,000 of that to go to the department where I work. And I said, well, that's a tough first demand. What's your second? And her second demand was, I want to work there after I retire on the project I was working on before. And I said, okay. That was the entire negotiation. Right? I'm like the Donald Trump of this thing, right? I mean, I just negotiated it brilliantly, but it's a testament. We've seen it time and time again. We saw it with the El Khouries, and now we see it again. And it is absolutely humbling. And so I'd like Marilyn Nicely to please stand up. Marilyn has spent 39 years in our law library, and she has seen it all and done it all. She is working on a scanning project right now for 19th century congressional documents on Native peoples that is fundamentally important. And I've decided to let her go ahead and continue doing that at absolutely no compensation. It is so easy to get caught up in the pace of things, and I really will sit down, but just in the last year, because of friends like you, we have had 2 U.S. Supreme Court justices visit our school. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor and Justice Sotomayor. The 10th Circuit a couple of weeks ago sat and held court for 2 days while they were there. We had the Henry Family Lecture about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where a judge from the 6th Circuit came in and provided an amazing lecture. The pace goes on so quickly that we don't stop often enough. That's one of the main purposes for today. And that is to say 2 things. And that is a profound thank you for the generations of excellence that you bring, for all that you do for our students. And I can assure you, we're working every day to try and be worthy of the legacy you all have given us. So thank you very much. Thank you. We will enjoy dinner and then come back for our presentations of the 3 inductees. Thank you. I did miss two introductions, and I wanted to make sure we did before we did go into the three inductees. And the first was I overlooked Judge Tom Walker. So I'd like to recognize Judge Tom Walker. Thank you for being here. And also, speaking of those individuals that thought they could go quietly into retirement, we brought Stan Evans back. So Stan Evans is back with us. We're thrilled to have him. All right, it is now time to honor our three inductees. Each of these individuals has made an indelible mark. Each of the recipients will receive a sculpture. For those who have not seen it before, it's a work of art that was commissioned by OU College of Fine Arts professor Sohaili Shahade. And the owl is a symbol of wisdom, and the owl, as you probably know, is at the center of our seal. And so the owl is given to each of these recipients. The order of presentation is this. For each of the inductees, I'll give a brief bio, and then we have three people that they have selected that will give brief comments. I'm actually going to read those, so imagine the excitement around that, but it will save you a lot of time. And then at the end of that, a student who has a special tie to that particular inductee will present the award. The first recipient is the Honorable Robin Cawthron. Robin Cawthron was born in Edmond, Oklahoma, and graduated from the University of Oklahoma with her bachelor's degree and her Juris Doctorate degree. She also earned a master's degree from Oklahoma Central State University. She was a law clerk for the Honorable Ralph Thompson in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Oklahoma. She was staff attorney for Legal Services of Eastern Oklahoma and a private practicing attorney before being appointed to serve as special district judge for Oklahoma's 17th Judicial District. Robin was the first full-time federal magistrate judge in the 10th Circuit, serving the Western District from 1986 to 1991. She served the Judicial Conference of the United States as a member and later chair of the Defender Services Committee, district judge represented to the conference, and member of the Executive Committee. She was nominated by President George H.W. Bush in 1991 to be a district judge and became the first female federal district judge in Oklahoma. All right, there are three individuals commenting for her. The first is her former boss and colleague, Judge Ralph Thompson. And you can hear his voice in this, hopefully. Pardon me if I make not the slightest effort to hide my personal pride on this great occasion. That is a quintessential Judge Thompson sentence. The honor graduate I was lucky enough to hire as one of my law clerks in 1977 has gone on to become not only a distinguished colleague on the court, but chief judge of the court, and by appointment of the Chief Justice of the United States, a leader at the highest levels of the federal judiciary itself. She is so smart, so capable, so beautifully educated, so fair and judicious, and such a fine person. Maybe it shouldn't be at all surprising that she attained this position. Judge Cawthron's exemplary career makes us all proud. During her years as a law clerk, she made me look good. On the bench, she has made the entire court look good. Inducting her into our school's Hall of Fame is a completely fitting tribute. In honoring her, we honor all that is good in what our College of Law, our university, and our profession, and what our system stands for. The next presenter is Judge Bana Roberts, and these are her comments. Tonight we are honoring two of my favorites, the University of Oklahoma and my dear friend, Judge Robin Cawthron. Robin and I met at OU during Rush and have been sorority sisters, close friends, and avid Sooners ever since. As proud members of the Grammar Police, Robin and I graduated with degrees in English, went our separate ways, and began our careers as teachers. We were surprised and delighted when we met again a few years later on a Saturday morning at the old law barn, ready to take the LSAT. Our future legal careers almost ended before they began when an overzealous proctor who did not appreciate our reunion threatened to kick us out if we didn't stop talking. Fortunately, we survived, and Robin, always the leader, went on to a distinguished career, beginning with an early appointment to a judgeship. Robin continues to bring wisdom, grace, and humor to the bench, crediting her experience as a mother with preparing her for duties as a judge. She is truly a Hall of Fame judge, mom, and friend. I have been honored to try and fill her big shoes. And finally, David Porch, his comments. I met Robin Cawthorn during what was then an entire week of orientation before law school classes began. I needed an entire week of orientation, but I soon learned Robin would have been fine with about 2 or 3 hours of orientation. It was soon apparent that she was ambitious, exceptionally smart, witty, and a quick study. By the end of her first semester, I was thoroughly convinced she had read case books and treatises like other folks read trashy novels. I'm not sure what you read, David, but that's for a different day. Our friendship has continued some 40 years later. In my experience, no one better exemplifies judicial temperament and wisdom than does she. To our great credit, to our great good fortune, the lawyers who practiced before her and the litigants who appeared in her court, Robin has taken her many gifts of intellect, insight, and temperament and generously shared them with the rest of us. And I had the good fortune myself of spending the summer at Oxford with her and Hank, and I can tell you that Robin excelled in the classroom and Hank did so at happy hour. I would like to invite Judge Cawthorn and 3L law student Nicole Lynn to the stage. Presenting the award to Robin Cawthorn is Nicole Lynn, a 3L who serves as managing editor of the American Indian Law Review and recently competed with the national moot court team, winning Best Brief at the regional level and 3rd Best Brief in the nation while advancing to the Sweet 16 round. She also just accepted a prestigious internship with the NFL Players Association in New York City. Following her internship there, she'll be clerking for Judge Cawthorn in the Western District.
When Joe called me and asked me if I would accept this wonderful award, the first words out of my mouth were, "I'm not old enough." Sadly, I forgot that I am very much old enough, but having forgotten so much, I thought I'd make some notes about what I want to say here tonight. I do want to thank Dean Harris and President Boren for this honor. It is very humbling when I see all of those out here who also graduated from the university, and I hope I'll get to come to your awards dinner sometime in the future. I also want to congratulate my fellow inductees. Not sure where we are, here and wherever, anyway. I think maybe it's inappropriate to call us Hooters. I think it's more entertaining than a parliament, but for those of you that are coming in with me and those of you who have come in before, I am honored to be in your company. And I also thank those who spoke on my behalf tonight. How lucky is it that I could have someone I met on my first day of college, my first day of law school, and my first day of work in the legal world. And I really appreciate your friendship and your remarks. You've all meant a lot to me over the years. I also have to thank Hank, my husband of over 20 years, and I'll bet none of you thought we'd make it a year. I thank him for being with me tonight, despite the fact that he had Fleetwood Mac tickets. I was fortunate enough to attend 2 years at Monette Hall before we moved to the building that, until Dean Coates got hold of it, was described as useful only for storing hay. I feel sorry for those who never had the opportunity between the refurbishment of this building and the leaving of Monette Hall, because we made so many good friends. We had the union right behind us to skip class and have coffee, sometimes with the professors who were not skipping class, but between classes. You can do that again here in the new law school, and It's just beautiful. I'm so glad it's gotten better. When I was in law school, I spent my entire time trying to make sure no one knew who I was. And I was really quite successful at the time, but after graduation, people seemed to know me. I took John Tassell to a ceremony in Tulsa one time, and he spent the whole way over there telling me what a wonderful student I was. And I didn't have the heart to tell him I'd never had a class with him. But I feel so fortunate to have had so many of those legendary professors that we all remember from OU. Some of whom are still here, and a new generation of whom I'm sure are just as legendary. I just don't know you as well. I would start naming names, but everyone here would be angry at who I left out, so I'm not going to. But you all know who I'm talking about. This law school started me off with a great foundation and a career that I have loved. I'm proud it's still doing the same thing for its students. And it's not just good luck that it is. It is great leadership at both the law school and the university. Old leadership, new leadership. We are so fortunate to have come from this place and time, and despite the kind of ugly actions of the last 4 days, we should always be proud of this great school and great university. I can't sit down without saying thank you to all of my old friends. This has been such fun to see people I haven't seen in years. To all of my colleagues who I see every day, it means a lot to me that you are all here. Thank you very much. Uh-oh, I have the judge's notes. That's a possible ethical problem. All right, our next inductee is Dean Emeritus Andrew Coates. I've been waiting this for a while. Andrew, and by the way, we have cut his bio down significantly from what he sent us. And it's still not short. Andrew M. Coates is a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of the University of Oklahoma. He was an officer in the United States Navy, and after serving at sea, became an advisor to the Republic of China Naval Forces in Taiwan from 1957 to 1960. In 1960, he returned to the University of Oklahoma to attend the College of Law. He was an editor of the Oklahoma Law Review, president of the Student Bar Association, and was elected to the Order of the Coif. He was honored by the Oklahoma Bar Association as the outstanding law student in the state of Oklahoma and was selected as the outstanding law graduate of 1963. He served as the district attorney of Oklahoma County, was elected mayor of Oklahoma City, served as the president of Crow and Dunlevy Law Firm, and was president of the Oklahoma Bar Association. It's not a bad sentence. Dean Coates was the national president of the American College of Trial Lawyers from 1996 to 1997. He was the chapter president of the American Board of Trial Advocates in Oklahoma and is also a fellow of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. In 1995, he was selected as a trustee of the United States Supreme Court Historical Society. In 1996, he became dean of the University of Oklahoma College of Law. In 2002, in recognition of his leadership of the University of Oklahoma College of Law, the OU Regents named the law school building in honor of Andrew M. Coates, Andrew M. Coates Hall. And I have to walk into it every day, Andy. In 2005, Andy was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, the highest honor Oklahoma can confer. Not on his resume, this is how good it is that he argued and won a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case. Comments, and this is where I will fall woefully short, Judge Lee West. So I'll go with the southeastern Oklahoma accent. I first encountered Andy Coates not long after I began teaching at the law school many years ago. I was serving as a moot court judge when this skinny,
second-year student grinned all the way through his absolutely brilliant performance. His brilliance was confirmed when I later taught him in my classes on evidence and trial practice. When my former classmate Bill Paul asked if there was a student in OU's graduating class that his firm Crow and Dunlevy should offer a position, I instantly recommended young Andrew Coates. Andy accepted the offer and launched what was to become an extraordinarily successful and varied career. While it sometimes appears that Andy's only constant is change, there are actually two others. First, whatever is his mission, Andy will not only accomplish it, but he will exceed every expectation. Second, he will meet every challenge with his signature grin and a quip that will cause even his staunchest opponents to dissolve in laughter. Where he is, there will always be laughter and good cheer. For more than 50 years, I have marveled at his lightning-fast wit and his gift for generating laughter and goodwill. Andy Coates is easy to envy, but he is impossible to dislike. Chancellor Johnson's comments. On my last visit to the College of Law, I observed two law students looking at the marquee in front of the law school proclaiming the building in front of them the Andrew M. Coates Hall. One student then said to the other, "You know, I've been told that things were a lot better off around here when Andy Coates was still alive." There is truly no one more deserving of the Order of the Owl. I'll use that all the time. He was a good man. There's truly no one more deserving of the Order of the Owl. In any endeavor he chooses to pursue, Andy sets the bar very high. And one, he is a superb golfer who always has the lowest and best score in his foursome, and often keeps score. Two, he was at the top of his law school class in 1963, was an outstanding dean, and continues to be a very astute law professor. Three, he is one of the preeminent trial attorneys in this country. And four, he has been a talented and gifted public servant. Dean Coates provided the visionary leadership needed to complete the most successful fundraising, renovation, and expansion project in the 106-year history of the College of Law. The action by the Board of Regents and President Bourne to name the newly completed building in his honor was very appropriate. Andy Coates is now one of the few people I know who is named after a building. DeVere Pearson, who is not here and truly wanted to be here, he made every effort to be here. He sends comments as well, and these are his. Andy Coates has been best in show in every aspect of the legal profession. He has been a superb trial and appellate lawyer in private practice, a leader in a host of professional associations, and a distinguished public official. If he had done nothing else, he would have been one of the outstanding graduates of the College of Law. But Andy did far more. He became Dean of the College of Law, and during challenging times, led its return to greatness. A generation of graduates from the College of Law are the Coates generation of lawyers, and he will be largely responsible for their successes in professional life. It is no wonder that the building is named for him. Those of us who have known him for a long time are very proud of that friendship. And I will just say this because I was tempted to give my own long presentation about Andy, but that would then breach the overriding goal. I will just say this, and I can only put it this succinctly, is that from the very first job I had, and with every job that I've taken, I've gone to Andy for advice. He has been an absolutely terrific mentor. People often ask, is he teaching at the college? His friends that don't follow the actions of the College of Law. He is an incredibly gifted professor. He's incredibly involved, and the comment that I hear with great frequency and some bit of jealousy are students that say, after they talk about his class, I want to be Andy Coates. But he is. He's a friend, a mentor. He is a bright light, and we are honored to have him in this role and honored to have had him in so many roles for our state and for our college. We'll now invite Dean Andrew Coates and Kristen Newman to the stage. Presenting the award to Dean Coates is Kristen Newman, a 2L who serves as Vice President of Marketing for the Student Bar Association, is a Dean's Leadership Fellow, and competes on the American Association for Justice trial team. Kristen had Dean Coach for 1L Torts, as well as her family law professor in Oxford. Andy.
As I was here tonight, I remembered that when I was in law school, we had Law Day. And Law Day was a big deal. I mean, Earl Snead put on a Law Day performance that was extraordinary, and we filled this place with lawyers from all around the state. One year, they presented an award to Judge C.J. Blinn, who had been the county judge in Oklahoma County till the mind of man runneth not to the contrary. He'd been there forever. And by the time they got the award, he must have been, I don't know, in his mid-90s or something, and he was so old and frail that his son had to help him up to the microphone. And he got up to the microphone and he said, "Thank you for this wonderful award." He says, "Why did you wait so long?" He got that kind of response as he did that. And Robin, I'll tell you, I'm just about the right age for this award. I thought we'd get in with you two kids, why that would be a good thing. Reggie Whitten was worried about having to speak after me and Robin, and I said, "Don't worry, Reggie, there won't be a lot of time left." We're not going to talk a long time, but it sure may seem like it. You know, I got a statue. When I stepped down from being dean, I got a statue that the students had made for me, and they drew it out, and they had somebody build it, and they had it bronzed, and it's a beautiful statue. And what it says is, when you see a turtle on a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. And that's true of all of us that are up here tonight getting this award. Lee West kept saying, you know, the quality of the person's going into the orderly out keeps going down every year. I don't think you're right, but that's what he says. I'm sorry David Bourne isn't here, because probably nobody's quite had the impact on my life that David has. He assured himself over the years that I would not be a wealthy man. He talked me into taking jobs that paid no money, which was very little reward. Tried to make it up by naming a building after me to help some. Sure didn't help my family any. I mean, my children still pretty grumpy about the fact that I gave up the greatest trial practice in Oklahoma to come down here and be dean. I mean, it was really dumb, but it sure was fun. Being district attorney of Oklahoma County is the best job I ever had. You know, I spent more time trying not to send people to the penitentiary than I did trying to send them there. Any silly guy can send them there. If you can do something to intervene in their lives at that point that they're there and make something happen to change their conduct, you can really do some good things. And that's a side issue, but boy, do we need to do that. My family's here, and I gotta tell you, those poor devils, this is my last award, incidentally. And I'm glad you all came for my last one. My family has been put through so many times that sitting at these dinners, you know, these dinners are great for the people getting awards, but they're a little weak for the folks that have to sit out there in the audience. I mean, it's pretty grim. I probably wouldn't be here if I wasn't getting an award. That's just somebody near and dear to me. But anyway, they've all come to them, they've sat through them, they've acted like they were having a good time. I'm so proud of them that it's really wonderful. And of course, I have an additional member of my family, my fiancée Nancy, which the Irishman says she puts a spring in my step and a song in my heart, and she's here tonight and has to put up with all this nonsense, but you're gonna have to do more of it, so just get ready. I mean, you know, 'cause we'll have to come to some of the others. Probably won't do much, but we can do something. You know, I have always loved the law school, and I came here. It was a wonderful it was a wonderful law school. We were one of the top-rated law schools in the country. Nobody ever thought about rating law schools, but it was an extraordinary group with an extraordinary faculty. She mentioned that I was a Phi Beta Kappa. The reason I was a Phi Beta Kappa was because Maurice Myrtle, as you know, he's about that big, smart as hell. He in those days, it was a bachelor's degree, so he could recommend me based on my law school grades instead of my undergraduate grades. And he stopped me in the hall one day and he says, Andy, he said, I had occasion to read your undergraduate transcript. And I said, well, I'm sure sorry about that. Right? I didn't have to do that. And he said, well, I did it in this process. And he says, I can see that you were cursed with an overactive sense of conviviality. Isn't that a great line? And I said, yes, sir, I am, and it still falls on me from time to time. I told somebody else this, you know, he married Orpha. Orpha was a lovely lady, but she was a good bit taller than Maurice was, and I came down the back steps one night, and they'd been over to Union having dinner, I suppose, and they came back in the law school, and they were standing by the elevator. You remember the elevator used to be on the back side, on the east side of the whole law school. And they stood there, and it had been misting outside, and Orpha reached in her purse and took out a napkin and dried off top of his head. And I thought that was the cutest thing I ever saw. My friend Steve Shaw was in that class, and you know, some of us, he did cold briefs, you know, and that's a mistake, but he did, and they were doing a case of Massachusetts versus Mellon. And he got to talking. He said, Miss Frothingham did this, Miss Frothingham did that, and Miss Frothingham did something else. And Dr. Merrill said, well, Mr. Shaw, who is Miss Frothingham? And he said, well, she must be the plaintiff. He said, what's the style of this case? The style of the case was Massachusetts versus Mellon. So I asked you again, who is Miss Frothingham? He says, I never heard of her, unprepared. We had all of them, Tiger and the other ones were all great people. You know, when I talked earlier about how David Bourne had been, I didn't know him, but I knew his daddy. And his daddy, Lyle, was a wonderful, wonderful guy. And Fred Gibson and I went quail hunting with Lyle Bourne. I never heard of him. We stopped and picked him up. We're gonna go hunt quail. And he walks out there, and he's got a brown business suit on, a white shirt and brown shoes, and he's got a paper sack with him and a shotgun, the oldest damn shotgun you ever saw. Now, I'm a little nervous about who I hunt with. I mean, those people shoot you if you're not careful. And as we got out of the car, he said he just had his hair marceled, and he rolled up put the sack on his head, and he said, I wonder if there's a safety on this shotgun somewhere. I gave him my hat and said, you know, I sure wish you'd wear that, Mr. Bourne. And I stayed behind him about 12 paces all the way to it. Splendid day, and I learned where David came from when I spent time with Lyle, because he was an extraordinary guy, and I wish David was here tonight to hear me talk about that, because I had great respect and affection for his father, which was a good deal. The day I became dean of the law school, again, my friend Fred Gibson called me. Nobody called all day. People would call me from all over the world, say, Andy, you've got to go be the dean. You're the only human being on the planet who can go down there and do good for the law school. So nobody calls once I get there. I mean, I get sworn in, hell, I'm sitting there. Fred calls he was general counsel at the university at the time. He called me about 5 o'clock, and he says, Andy, he says, welcome to the University of Oklahoma. From here on, it's every man for himself. And it damn sure was. And he said, always remember, he said, David Bourne is a one-man band. And he is, brother. He did his own deal, and he does it, and devil take the hindmost, and it's been wonderful. But the time here, you know, when I came, the best thing about the law school, we had a wonderful faculty. They had way too many students. They had a building that was falling apart in front of our eyes. We put visqueen over the library books because it leaked. It leaked. Didn't even have to rain to leak. It just saved up water and leaked when it wasn't even raining. The carpets hadn't been changed since 1976 when they moved in, and things were growing out of them that the biological department couldn't recognize. I think we were starting over a whole universe there. But we came a long way, and as I say, and meant to say, that DeVere Pearson, for example, was a great guy. You don't get up there unless you got a lot of help along the way. And I had so many people, many of them are here, many friends are here that came and helped me do that. And it's been an important time. And I've gotten through a lot of these jobs. I've never gotten impeached. The conversation went around some, but I never did get impeached. I wasn't taken out by the regents. Touch and go sometimes, but mostly got out of there. But it's been wonderful. And to leave a thought from one of the great Oklahoma poets, I've had a grand time living, not that it's over yet, seeking, finding, and releasing the things I get. Never too much possessing, never too much possessed. Grateful for all that's come so far, and busting to know the rest. Thank you all.
The incomparable Andy Coates. Everyone's always entertained and no one more than you. All right, and now it's my pleasure to introduce our third inductee, Mr. Reggie Whitten. Born in Seminole, Reggie graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a BA in political science and his JD from OU Law in 1980. From 1980 until 2000, Reggie served primarily as an insurance and corporate defense attorney. He is the co-founder and senior partner of Whitten Burridge, handling primarily plaintiffs' insurance cases. Reggie is the past president for the Oklahoma Association for Justice. In 2011, Reggie urged jurors to stay focused on a case that opposing counsel told him was too complex and too boring. A week later, that jury awarded $130 million to the plaintiff, setting a state record. Reggie has received so many awards, including the University of Oklahoma Seed Sower Award, the Compass Award for Project Exploration, Benefactor Award from Jasmine Moran's Children's Museum. In 2012, Reggie received the Regents Alumni Award for his dedication and service to OU. And in 2013, Reggie was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. He is co-founder of Whitten Newman Foundation, created in memory of Reggie's son, Brandon. His family foundation also serves as the primary supporter for Sister Rosemary Nyambati, who is here tonight. She is a CNN hero and part of this year's Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. And she is here with us tonight and deserves recognition. Sister Rosemary, if we knew you were here, we'd give you your own award. She is a fixture. She is part of the University of Oklahoma as a whole, certainly of the law school, and we just love seeing you. Thank you for being with us tonight. Back to Reggie. He's the 101st most influential person in the world, very close to that top 100 list. He is co-founder of Pros for Africa and FATE, which is a fighting addiction through education. When we asked Reggie for his bio, he also mentioned to us that he is quite proud of the dinosaur he donated to the Children's Museum in Seminole, the Acrocanthosaurus, I believe, which is the state's dinosaur, from Atoka. He is a remarkable man, and I will now go through his three commenters and then complete them myself. Mike Burridge comments, second only in difficulty to invoking Judge Lee West, but I'll try. Mike Burridge. Without a doubt, Reggie is one of the greatest trial lawyers to come out of OU, and he has the track record to prove it. He has the candid ability to make a jury see his client's virtues in a case. He is a great friend and law partner. He has compassion for those who have not been as fortunate as others. But Reggie has another side. Being a great lawyer does not mean he has a firm grasp of the law. His knowledge of the law dates back to when he briefly looked at it in law school. And to him, it is now nothing but a dense haze from the past. He looks at what he does remember about the law as nothing more than mere suggestions or recommendations, which has never restrained him from using the law in the courtroom. His attitude is, if it's not the law, well, it ought to be. It is extremely hard to rein him in when we're at trial. When, not if, he steps over the line, or should I say, tramples it. I hear those all too familiar words. Mike, can you fix this? So far, we've been able to patch things up when this happens, but it's getting harder and harder as we go further away from that dense haze from days gone past. We have tried many cases, and every case is the best case we've ever seen. I look forward to trying these best cases we've ever seen together and fixing the law that he thinks to get in his way. President John Hargrave, president of ECU, who's with us here tonight. I am so glad to see my good friend Reggie Whitten inducted into the Order of Owl Hall of Fame. It is a good thing he's being inducted into the Order of the Owl because we were not even close to being inducted into the Order of the Coif. I think that's my favorite. I'm so proud to have known Reggie Whitten for over 40 years, from a state champion high school debater at Seminole High School to a moot court champion at OU Law. He possesses a creative mind, a quick wit, and a big heart. Reggie is a skilled trial lawyer. He is a good friend and a worthy foe. Jim Priest. Reggie Whitten has been one of my best friends for 34 years and co-counsel on some of my toughest cases. I describe Reg as a popcorn popper without the lid. Creative ideas and creative energy explode out of his brain, while the rest of us are left trying to scramble to pick up the popcorn of ideas and implement them. That happens in litigation and also happens in the nonprofit organizations in which I've been privileged to work with him. I've watched Reg evolve over the years, from a fresh scrubbed, cocky, and smart young lawyer to a mostly scrubbed, modest, and wise old lawyer. He is a man with tremendous skill, with great insight, and an enormous heart for the less fortunate. I'm proud to call him my friend. And I'll just add this, and that is, I've gotten to know Reggie over the last 4 years, and it was a day I'll never forget. He is truly one of those that inspires and is inspiring, and everything he does is purposeful and exciting and energetic, and he's changing lives. His relationship with Sister Rosemary and all of the work he has done with his nonprofits impact so many lives and impact so many of our students, it's hard to express. He walked forward and gave a $100,000 gift without even being asked so that our students could be a part of Pros for Africa and go help people from across the globe in their hometowns. He stepped forward immediately when I was talking about how we needed to have more public interest fellowships for our students that would like to do public interest work over the summer but couldn't afford to do so. And he and Mike Burridge stepped up together and came forward on that initiative. Every time there is an idea, he steps forward. He always brings ideas. Just called this week with a bunch of ideas over to handle the events of this week. He always wants to help, always delivers, and can always be relied upon, and he's helping out our students in so many ways. It is an honor to be your friend. If I could now, I'd ask Reggie to come forward. Also ask Kimmy Kabunum to come forward as well. Presenting the award to Reggie Whitten is Kimmy Kabunum, who is a 3L who is published on the American Indian Law Review and serves as the articles and special features editor. She is president of the Black Law Student Association, and during her time with BALSA, the BALSA chapter has been named to these awards. Named Rocky Mountain Regional Chapter of the Year, Top Small Size Chapter, Top Overall Chapter, and the Moot Court team also won Best Petitioner's Brief. Her first year in law school, out of the entire first year class, she also won Best Oral Advocate. She is here and has graciously agreed to join us, despite the fact that early tomorrow morning she is flying out to Uganda to join Professor Scaparlanda from the College of Law, joining Sister Rosemary in the effort to Pros for Africa over in Uganda for her spring break trip that she's spending with other students that are there. She has become a very dear friend. Honored to have her present the award to Reggie.
Well, let's get this thing going because I have some work to do. First, Joe Harris got me down here. He lied to me. He told me that I did not have to follow Andy Coates. So that's the first thing. You know, that's a bad deal. You all heard how funny he is. But now I'm really mad. They didn't tell me I was going to have all these comedians introduce me. Thanks a lot, Mike. Jim, Johnny Bob, and all right. Now, to all you judges out here, I do not step over the line. That's Let me just say that, Your Honors. And I promise you I will not step across the line in your courtroom. Thanks a lot. How you gonna clean this one up, Mike? Let me see what else I gotta clean up here. I'm gonna talk about President Bourne in a moment. I gotta say, this guy's the greatest dean of any law school in the country. And I've met quite a few of them. He is an amazing guy. He's so good for himself. Kim, I'm glad you put that statue down because it's going to be just a minute. You know that turtle, you talked about that turtle on the fence post. I want to talk about that for a minute. And I also want to talk about the recent events this week. I am definitely a turtle on a fence post. The difference between me and a turtle is I know who put me on there. It's all luck. Almost all of it's luck. I mean, I had the great fortune of being born in Seminole, Oklahoma, and I had all these role models. Dick Bell, Richard, your dad changed my life. There were some fellows that went ahead of me. Dr. Ron White was an amazing guy to look up to. Seminole, there must be something in the water because of all the people that came out of Seminole. But when I was a little boy, I remember standing on the courthouse steps, and my dad introduced me to Frank C. And Judge C., you've been a big role model in my life. Many, many others. But David Bourne, I'm so sad he can't be here tonight. But when I graduated from high school, I didn't have a place to go. I didn't have any money, didn't have a job. And David Bourne was teaching at Oklahoma Baptist University. You talk about luck. He dragged me over there, and they did not have a debate program. And because of David Bourne and others in Seminole, and I had the same high school debate coach David Bourne did. I had him, H.B. Mitchell. And again, another great stroke of luck. And when I found out that you could actually get paid for talking, man, it changed my life. And it was like getting paid to breathe. And so David got me a debate scholarship at Oklahoma Baptist University. And I got to take classes from David while he was there. I had no idea how great David was at the time. Then my next piece of luck, I had my first child. My next piece of luck, I transferred to the University of Oklahoma when David was elected governor. And I got a job at the OU Law Library when it was in the old barn. Just pure luck. And I was not particularly talented at filing pocket parts, but they let me stay there. My next piece of luck, and he's not here tonight, but Earl D. Mills. Many of you know Earl D. Mills. I got hired by him and a guy named Jim Folliard. And I went to work for Folliard, Mills, and Niemeyer. And Earl Mills taught me that you can win with dignity and grace and be honest. And that's where I probably picked it up, Mike. I didn't have to know law, just be honest. And juries like that. And so I got lucky, and I worked with Earl for about 20 years. And then I met a guy named Mike Burridge, and I met him when he was on the bench. He scared me to death because he was so quiet. Quiet people make me nervous. And, but I met Mike Burridge, and he changed my life. Along the way, I met some others, and not in chronological order, but John Hargrave. I've known him since high school. Jimmy Priest, I met him in 1980. And there's too many, to name. Noma Gurich and I were on the student court together. Never dreamed, where she would end up. Judge, I didn't mean that the way it might be interpreted. You know what I mean. Mike, step up here and clean that up. But I was just lucky all the way along the way, and it's been an incredible ride. And somewhere along the way I got lost, and 6 months after I lost my son, I went to Africa. Some friends took me over there, and I saw what was happening in 2002 in Uganda. There was this terrible war going on, and I was pretty much a lost soul. And I met Sister Rosemary, and I saw what she was doing over there. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we're not in danger, but Sister Rosemary was in danger all the time. It's a miracle that she's here, and she's saved tens of thousands of lives. And I saw what she was doing, and it was like medicine for a sick person. And we've been close friends ever since. If you'd told me when I grew up in the Baptist church in Seminole, Oklahoma, that one of my best friends would be a little nun from Africa, I would have said, you're crazy. But we became very close, and close indeed today. I met my wife, Rochelle, right before I went on that first trip to Africa. And those two ladies gave me a reason to live. And so luck was a big part of my life. And I found that giving back was more important than getting. And that's been probably the biggest lesson I've learned. The University of Oklahoma changed my life. The OU College of Law changed my life. And let's talk about what happened this week. You all saw what happened with this fraternity. This young lady right here is getting on a plane tomorrow and going to Africa. But there's been hundreds and hundreds of kids from OU and other schools across this state that nobody's showing them on CNN. They're going over there to serve this little nun and help those kids. And that story should be told. And so the truth is, there's no way that any institution can eliminate, people from saying and doing bad things. But the University of Oklahoma doesn't stand for that. What it stands for is what Kim is doing tomorrow. This is the greatest university in the country, in my opinion. We have the greatest college president in the country in David Bourne. No doubt about it. And what this school stands for, was exemplified for me one day about 2 years ago. I was doing a book signing because I did a book about Sister Rosemary's life. And this little gal walked up to me, and she's wearing a T-shirt that said OU College of Law Pros for Africa, and it was Kim. And I talked to her quite a bit that day. I learned that she was from Texas, and we started doing this. But she is an amazing young lady, and that's what the University of Oklahoma stands for. And this young lady and some of the other young ladies and young men at the OU College of Law who travel all the way across the world, and they don't get on CNN, that's what this school stands for. And so thank you all for coming, and thank you, Joe, for having me here tonight. I'm so honored. Appreciate it.
But the special connection and the impact is interesting. I would add this, and that is Kim ran track at the University of Texas, and she came to the College of Law because at a law school fair at the University of Texas, she walked by our table and wasn't otherwise going to stop, but she saw a Pros for Africa banner that we had there because of Reggie, saw that, turned around, came back, and from that she came to the University of Oklahoma College of Law, and we have her. So, thank you very much. Well, as we bring this to a conclusion, I would like to do just a couple of things. And one of those is to just go through one more time and thank and recognize each of our recipients for being with us and being such great examples. So thank you to all of you. You know, it's interesting, going through the guest list and walking through it, the only thing that I hate is that I can't go by and thank each one of you individually. But this really is our lost community. It really is, you know, our faculty and staff and students and all of our alumni and friends. And so if I don't get a chance to thank you personally, please know how much we appreciate you. To take time out of your evening, out of your day, out of your week, to come here and spend it with us, to recognize these three honorees, and to be a part of our community means so much to us. So thank you so much. And now we'll conclude the evening as we would if President Bourne were here, and as we should, which is with the singing of our chant. We have two of our law students who will lead us in this. We have Joey Gerisi and Leslie Guile who will lead us in this. So as we conclude at the end of this, please go, and thank you very much.
Will you all raise your right hands and join us in singing the OU chant?